he seems to be coming to reality when it comes to who Putin is and how dishonest he is in these negotiations. And I put that term negotiations in quotes because I think Trump is seeming to suggest now it's all been fake. Putin's not been there in good faith. And here's some of that from today.
I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, recently, I guess, the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die. So, we'll see what happens.
By the way, for the watching audience, he's sitting there next to Keir Starmer. They were there talking about the EU trade deal. So what do you make of it now, Victor? Because Trump's in an interesting position in that he's realizing that Putin cannot be trusted, that Putin's not going to stop in Ukraine, absent something else. He's been threatening secondary sanctions, and meaning we're going to sanction countries that continue to do business with Russia and not just directly sanction Russia. He had originally said they have 50 days from July 12th to come to the table with something real and stop the bombing. And today he said, I'm shortening it to 10 to 12 days, which basically cuts the time in half that he had originally given them. But the reason I say he's in an interesting situation is, the MAGA base does not want any escalation between us and Russia, and they're over Ukraine. But Trump's coming to this on his own, having tried with Putin and realizing this is not someone proceeding in good faith. So what do you make of it?
I think you make a good point by that emphasis that had he had this attitude before he reached out to Putin, he would have had a lot more trouble with the MAGA base. But now he can say to them, I took a lot of flack trying to be fair to Putin. I bent over backwards. And we have no choice unless you want me to do something like Afghanistan and just give up on Ukraine. And what will happen. It'll be a humiliation for our entire party if they overrun Kiev. And they can if we stop supporting. So he's gone more than halfway, and that's important for his base. I think the problem, what he didn't realize, is that Putin understands that he already had the Crimea, he already had the Donbass, and de facto he knew that Ukraine was not going to be in NATO. And then he's now 50 or 60 miles in many places beyond the Donbass or Crimea. But he's lost 1 million dead, wounded, and missing. And he's got to tell the military and the apparat and the oligarchic class back there, I lost 1 million casualties, and it was worth it because, and they're going to say, because what, Vladimir? We already knew we had Crimea. We were never going to give it back. We were never going to give Donbass back. We knew they weren't going to get in it. What can you show us was worth 1 million casualties? And so he thinks he's got to keep going westward, or he thinks he has to somehow terrorize Ukraine into submission, or he thinks the United States is going to bail on Ukraine. And that's not going to happen. And I think so what's either going to happen is that somebody's going to force him to quit on the Russian side, or he's going to see that he's getting very diminishing returns as the casualties mount. I don't think Russia ever imagined they would lose that many people and get so little in return from what they started with.
So what's likely to happen now? Because Trump, he crossed his MAGA base on Iran, and that worked out well. And he tried to cross the MAGA base on Epstein. That didn't work out very well. But this is a big issue. J.D. Vance and many others within the MAGA more isolationist wing really, as one would think, will be very, very opposed, notwithstanding what they've seen happen here, to any escalation that might make us more at odds with Russia. But you can hear Trump getting there organically. I do not see them just rolling over. JD will, because he's a loyal vice president. But, the Republican Party is kind of over the assistance to Ukraine.
Yeah, I think he's just going to have to say, the only way we're going to have peace is I have to have some leverage. I have no leverage. If we just pull out, he will take Ukraine, and whether you like it or not, you will be blamed for it. And that will be the big campaign issue in 2028. Who lost Ukraine? Because it'll make the pullout from Afghanistan look like nothing. So we're going to continue our help with Ukraine. We've closed our own border. I've done all this, but I don't have any choice. I got to get the tools to deal with Putin, and he will not deal unless he knows that he can't win. And so that's all he can do. And I think if you look at the polls, most of the people don't like when you phrase the question, are you going to increase aid or are you going to get involved? They say no. But if you just keep the aid going and hope that he will finally see that he can't get much more vis-a-vis the cost, then I think that's the only thing that we can do. And it's
the secondary sanctions would be
there's
interesting.
dividends. Yeah, the big thing is the secondary. We've never done that. Really, that's a devastating. That's almost like an act of war. So that means you tell India, for example, if you buy any more Russian oil, you're done with us. You tell China, if you buy, it's against the law in the United States to have a second. When Cesar Chavez had a secondary boycott of California grapes, he boycotted Safeway just because they had grapes on the shelf, not that they were endorsing anything. And it was pretty traumatic. And it didn't really work. It got him a lot of bad publicity. But that's the next step. And I don't know if Trump wants to take that because unlike all of the hysteria about a trade war, if you have a secondary boycott, that's a pretty radical step. And it's radical in the sense it would probably be much more effective than what we're doing now. But the cost in economic disruption and problems with people, our allies and neutrals, would increase as well.
And he doesn't want to do anything that's going to mess with the U.S. economy at
He
all.
does not want to do it. No.
While he really is getting it fired back up again, you can see that. And it's thanks to a number of things, deregulation among them, but the tariffs, yes, that too. The inflation that was inflicted on the American people by Joe Biden continues to loom large. Yes, it's down to 2.9%, but they are still having a massive hangover from the Biden years. And you can see it, the data guru over at CNN, he was out there last week. He was talking about how much the Democrats hate their own party and how much America hates the Democrat Party. But then he followed up with a report on where independents are right now with Trump. And you'll watch this report. On the heels of this report, he pivots to explaining the thing they're really unhappy over is inflation, which even though it's down under Trump, they're still feeling it. So they blame the guy in charge. But here are the numbers with Trump and independents. And this is why secondary sanctions, in my view, he may not do. Not with the big countries that we trade with, because he doesn't want to do anything that's going to hurt our economy in any way. Here, watch.
We are talking about independence, Mr. Berman. And I will say this is the biggest warning sign, the biggest danger sign for President Trump in his second term so far. Why is that? Because it does not appear that there is a bottom to which Donald's support can't fall to. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating with independents. There was all this hubbub about Gallup that came out this past week. You see, back in January, it was minus 2 points. Now it's minus 35 points. But what's important here is Gallup is largely matching the average. Back in January, in the average, Trump's net approval rating with independents was minus 3. Look at where it's fallen to now, minus 29 points. That is a drop of over 25 points with the key part of the electorate. If you're not winning among independents, you're probably not winning overall. And when your net approval rating's minus 29 points, you're definitely not winning overall when you're that low with independents.
It's just the size of the drop. It's staggering.
It's huge.
It is huge. He's taken a tumble there with independents. But again, the tail end of this goes into inflation, which seems to be what's upsetting them.
It's very funny because if you look at the Wall Street Journal op-ed page, they warned us that tariffs would cause a trade war and hyperinflation. It didn't happen. But at the same time, they were urging a secondary boycott of anybody who bought oil from Ukraine. That is a tax. That is going to be that would be 10 times worse than any tariff if we did that. It would be so disruptive because these are really big countries like China and India. And if you just simply cut off all aid with China or all trade with China, all trade with India, it would be a disaster for the world economy, but that would spike inflation. But I don't understand why people who have argued, let's be moderate about tariffs, then suddenly go whole hog on something we've never even done before. We've had tariffs before, but we've never secondary boycotted huge countries like they're talking about. So I think it's a bad thing. A lot of it, I think, of the independents, Donald Trump's trademark is he's decisive, he's transparent, and he doesn't give a blank what people think. And the Epstein thing hurt him Not, I think everybody said it was going to hurt him with the base. It hurt him more, I think, with independents, because they said, well, he's just another politician. They said one thing and then they did the other. And the best thing that he could do is just say, we've had just say we've had mixed signals. We're just, anything that comes across my desk that's about Epstein and is legal, I'm going to let it go. And you, the people, have to use your own intelligence to sort out who was an innocent bystander, who was collateral versus who was culpable. And I trust your judgment, and that's what I'm going to do. And because I think that's hurt him with a lot of people.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but the Democrats attempted to take a shot at Trump on inflation over the weekend, and it was a disaster. They tweeted out this graph. This is, and the graph read, Trump's America. U.S. grocery prices reached record highs, they say, in 2025. And yet they show in this graph, it goes from October of 2019, where it was low, 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 all the way to like October 21. Here's the chart. And then it starts to spike. Under who's president again? October 2021, higher in 2022, higher in 2023, higher in October 2024, which is where the chart ends, October 2024.
I know it.
And they had to delete it. It was so wrong.
It was
weird. It was right. It
It
just wasn't about 2025. Keep going.
They released it for 24 hours. And I think everybody looked at it. I know I did. And I thought, wow. And then I remember Janet Yellen saying, it was like a Janet Yellen statement that this is not going to cause any inflation at all when you were borrowing this up what eventually been $7 trillion. And Larry Summers warned them about it. Remember that? He said, this is the biggest mistake you could do. We're going to get hyper. He was actually very prescient on that. And I don't know why. The fact they did that either shows that nobody's in control of the DNC, or they have no other argument to offer except dissimulation, because anybody with a teenager would not have done that.
Since Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, they cannot fix your personal savings. You're going to be the one who has to do that. One of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold. From Birch Gold Group, in the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. That's amazing. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text the letters MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.